Welcome everyone to the F1 2026 Canadian Grand Prix reaction, joined by Sahwgunn. Quite the Grand Prix we've had after the second, all three, maybe four breaks that we're having, those long ones that we're having this year. This race was very interesting. It was a sprint weekend, and generally the weekend kind of delivered. It was interesting, despite us all thinking that Mercedes are going to dominate. It that wasn't that one-sided, right? We saw that they could have fought a little harder, maybe set up stuff here and there. Could have worked either way. But generally, the Mercedes were still the quickest, but it was definitely wasn't anything like a super 2014 like. Yeah, okay. When it goes to Canada, obviously had the weather forecast for Sunday, which ended up having being essentially no rain. At the start of the race, we've had the little drizzle that made the track wet, but since we had like four starts, actually dried up by the time we started the race, and those who sent our inters, namely McLarens and Audis, I think it was so Aston Martins, right? So all those cars should basically had to pit very early on. It was very unfortunate that I covered both my favorite drivers. Yeah, it just kind of happens too often for Crawford. Yeah, okay. Let's go through the predictions that we've had with AGX. Going over to the sprint. So, sprint pole position. We do have George Russell on pole position in the sprint. So it's a point for AGX. Then the sprint win also going to George Russell. So another point for AGX. Sprint star. It's been interesting. There's a couple of drivers that you could think of. Honestly, I'm probably leaning towards Lando, but potentially, there's Aaron Lindblad in P8 and so on. I'll give it to Lando. Definitely it's not Max or Hajar. Hajar was very unfortunate to not not finish the sprint because he was up there with Max, but just his car gave up. Unfortunate. Yeah. Wait. Didn't. Never mind. A disappointment. Sprint disappointment. This one is a little sketchy. There we had, let's say, we've had the Antonelli thing, with George, the whole inter-fighting. I don't really think that it was deserving of a sprint disappointment. And the Ferraris were pretty mid, so I wouldn't call them disappointments either. For this one specifically, the sprint, I don't think there's anyone who's done particularly badly. It's also been 4 days since the Grand Prix, so since the sprint specifically. It's been a while. I don't remember exactly the picking order. There wasn't one driver specifically who would I think of when it comes to the sprint disappointment. So, 2-0 so far to sprint. Let's go over to qualifying, which I need to look up. I know some of the results. It's just, when I looked at my app that I use for recordings, it doesn't have qualifying results for some reason. So just I'll just quickly look this up for qualifying. George Russell in pole position. That's the obvious one. That's a point for AGX. Then we have Antonelli in P2. That's no points. P3 Lando Norris. No points. P4 Oscar Piastri. Points. And P5 was Lewis Hamilton. So no points for either of us there. Goes to the Grand Prix. First place for Grand Prix was Kimi Martinelli. And yeah, interesting thing with George Russell's car just breaking out. Very unfortunate. Um, yeah, kind of, these things happen in the Formula One. It's very unfortunate for him. Yeah, happens. Formula One that you sometimes break down. He's been very unlucky this year, and Kimi is yeah, grabbing those points. It's just he has a pretty huge lead now, over 40 points, I think. Yeah, looking very good for Kimi. P2, very surprisingly, Lewis Hamilton. One of his better weekends in Ferrari overall. Then we have Max Verstappen podium. I didn't go for this enough after going for, I think, like 3 weekends in a row, so unfortunate. P4 Leclerc, P5 Hajar, so no points there. Apart from HX's Grand Prix winner. No, sorry. He got. Wait, one sec. Give him full win and qualifying. So no points from the race for either of us. Okay, driver of the weekend, Lindblad Ocon. You could make an argument for well, neither of those two specifically, but Lindblad drove this decent sprint. Obviously, Lawson was better in the Grand Prix. Lindblad also did not even start the race, so yeah. We have 5 DNFs apart from Lindblad, who did not start the race. So we have the big one, George Russell, who, well, unfortunately, current thing, as well as as well as Lando Norris, who is also looking pretty strong in the race. In the overall in the weekend, up until his team decided to give him the worst strategy possible. McLaren really outdid themselves in this Grand Prix, somehow screwing it up, even with a pretty good car. They were sitting in P3 and P4. Lando got the lead into turn 1, but he was on the wrong set of tires. Maybe if he had the slicks on, he could have fought at least minimum for the podium. Definitely would have been on the podium if it wasn't for that, but yeah, happens. Alonso, didn't even finish. His seat broke down or something, just a casual Aston Martin thing. Albon, yeah, and Perez, I don't know why Perez didn't DNF. It probably was the thing that he went into the pits with the broken suspension. So another car failure for Cadillac. They will learn from that, sure. Okay. Okay. Brother weekend. I'll probably give it to. Thinking about Lewis, just specifically because he was looking like the stronger driver for Ferrari throughout the entire weekend, which I don't think happened like at any point since joining the Ferrari. So probably one of the strongest weekends there, and generally looking very good. Fortunately, Ferrari just couldn't really manage the last parts of qualifying, losing to the McLaren's Mercedes every time, but Lewis definitely had it this weekend. It was very, very good. Colapinto also P6, did a very good job. Hajar was looking better than you thought he would after Miami, so good things for him. Probably would give this to either Lewis or even Lando could deserve this. It was very unfortunate that he obviously had this strategy thing. I was looking very good in the sprint, and beat his teammate marginally, but beat still his teammate in every session. Garage of the weekend. Racing Bulls Alpine. Alpine is probably the pick. Honestly, when you think about it, Alpine scored 12 points. It's quite a lot. It was obviously helped by 3 top cars not being there, but they were looking like the 5th quickest team, which was pretty good for them. And Colapinto especially was looking very strong for his standards. Alpine looked like a pretty good team this weekend. You could also argue for maybe even for Ferrari and Red Bull, like those two teams also. They were particularly quick, but they didn't. Well, I guess no. They haven't done a complete blunder like McLaren, and I don't think not doing something very stupid. It's something like that. Yeah, I'll go for LP. So that means I get the point. Blunder of the weekend when it comes to the driver. Bortolotto, not really. I mean, he was slower than Hulkenberg, but not by much. He was up there with him for the most part. Alex Albon, unfortunately, incident with the animal, and apart from that, he was not looking very good. He was also very unlucky with being taken out by Piastri. Like those two crashes weren't his fault. When you think about it, but he wasn't looking particularly good this weekend either. Yeah, honestly. Yeah, I'll give this to. Okay, for a driver, I'll give this to Piastri. Did have a decent sprint, decentish, maybe you could say. In qualifying, was behind his teammate very marginally, but that what he did in the race, very disappointing as a Piastri fan to see that. And yeah, the season that was following, such a good season last year. Yeah, he didn't win the title, but he was looking like the best driver for quite a bit in that season. It's very unfortunate to see him do things like these because these are very much rookie mistakes. I know he was screwed up in strategy, but so was Lando, and Lando was still trying his best to manage the situation. But his car, he had to pit another time after getting to slick stars for something. They had to change something on his car. So he was still ahead of Piastri because Piastri had to change his front wing, and then obviously Lando's car broke down. So yeah, Piastri even didn't manage to get points on a day where Lando and George did finish the race. Very, very disappointing for Piastri. Ferrari of the weekend. Not Ferrari, not Haas. I think those two teams were fine. Both scored points. And Haas wasn't very quick, but they haven't really had much form recently, so it makes sense. Because to Ferrari of the weekend definitely goes to McLaren for that race strategy and Lando's car breaking down. This is yeah. There's not even competition here. There's no team that comes even close to this. I mean, Aston is always trash, and Cadillac, I mean, their new team can really judge that. Yeah. Fastest lap. Well, actually don't remember the fastest lap, so I'll check it really quickly. It was Kimi Antonelli, so I get a point, another point. Interesting. So that makes it 3-2. Demolition Award. Yeah, this goes to Piastri, even though Alex crashed more. He had more crash damage, but Alex's crashes weren't his fault. Like in the first one he ran over an animal and essentially made him crash, and the second one he was just taken out. It definitely goes to Piastri, who gets the Demolition Award for taking a driver out of the race originally and ruining his entire race. And McLaren scored no points this weekend. Sorry, not in the Grand Prix, because it was a sprint. Okay, family vote prediction. Ajax aside, he didn't specify which family member requested this one. So it was a Verstappen Leclerc racing incident, or a touch, or call it. I don't remember this one being there for an entire weekend. So I will talk about it later on. But I just don't remember Leclerc and Max being at the same time, like at the same part of the track at any point during the weekend originally. Obviously had the battle between Lewis and Max, but that was Ferrari. So yeah, Hamilton wins the Grand Prix. He finished P2. It was much closer than you would expect. Uh, Actual prediction, Hulkenberg points. Yeah, not really. Uh, it was close, right? He reached P12 despite starting on the interns. It's okay. He's finishing ahead of his teammate and Ocon and Stroll, Bottas, and all the DNFs. Russell, Grand Slam. No, he's been decent-ish after the sprint, but I think it's a quality. But yeah, apologies. I'm allergic to bad PS results, I guess. Uh, yeah. Allergic in, and George Russell didn't get a Grand Slam, so there's no points. Extra roll prediction. Hamilton didn't get it either, and Hajar did not win, so that's it for the points. We'll add them up, so it's 22 to 21. That's one point separating us after the Canadian Grand Prix. Good. So we can move over to the driver ratings. I'll cover the AGX ones first. So he and his, so I can put them in. Gave George 10, Antonio 9, Lewis Hamilton 9, Charles Leclerc 8, Lando Norris 8, Oscar Piastri 6, Hajar 9, Max 7. 7? Oh, Max needs 7. Okay, Behrman, Ollie Behrman 6, 6, Hulkenberg 6, Mortata 6, Gasly 6, a lot of drivers with a 6, Colapinto an 8, Lindblad, where is he? 9, and Lawson 5. Interesting. Alex Albon, a 5, Carson 7, Alonso 5, Lester 4, Bottas 5, Perez 5. So I guess I didn't see much from the midfield. That's understandable. But yeah, Perez was clear of Bottas during this weekend. It was not even close. So I give it Perez an 8 and Bottas a 3. It was not looking good. Alonso, yeah, he tried his best with the car was given. Couldn't quite work. 7. Stroll, yeah. Not much happened during this weekend. I'm going to 4.5 just because why not? Alex Albon, very unfortunate during the weekend, but was generally so slow and yeah, just couldn't get it going. For me and Sainz, decent weekend, 7.5. Liam Lawson, upsetting sprint, but the Grand Prix was pretty decent. I'm giving him a 6.5, and Arben Lindblad, the reverse, although he didn't even start the race, so 6.5. So I'm going to give them the same rating. Gasly was outperformed by Colapinto in this race, but sorry, in this Grand Prix. I'm giving him a 6, Colapinto a 9. Oh, that was very strong. Bortoleto 4.5. Hulkenberg 5.5. Although both of them are sort of strategy, but he didn't seem to do much. Yeah, Hulkenberg is 6 and Hulkenberg 5 then. Yeah, it's middle of the side. Behrman was struggling like Ocon again, but it wasn't like much separating them. That much separating them. Think about it. Yeah, I'll give 6.5 to 6. Hajar, very strong weekend, was very close to max in qualifying. And then very unfortunate in the sprint race for the DNF. In the main Grand Prix, finished P5, was attacking Leclerc for P4. Was in that top team fight, even though he was at the back of it. Was still good showing to be up there with Max fighting for the top 5 with the misfortunes of other drivers with their team strategies. So yeah, Hajar, a solid weekend. I'm gonna give him a 7.5, and Max, yeah, he got a P2, sorry, a P3. Couldn't really do that much considering the Ferrari was that faster, and in the sprint he couldn't do much either because his car just wasn't quick enough this weekend. I'm gonna give him an 8. We didn't do much wrong, honestly. Did the best he could, all things considered. Oscar Piastri, a 2.5 is very disappointing. The sprint doesn't like cover it. He loses a lot of points for the Grand Prix because he actually screwed his own Grand Prix there, despite the no strategy. He was supposed to finish the points minimum. I think he could have very well finished ahead of the best of the rest, so he could have finished P6 if he hadn't done that, because Lando was looking like he could finish there before his DNF. Well, essentially before his second pit stop. He was closing it to Lando in qualifying. In the sprint, he didn't have much pace. Generally, in the racing, the races, he didn't have much pace compared to Lando. Lando, on the other hand, very good weekend. We were unfortunate with on the Sunday, but other than that, we managed pretty well. I'm gonna give him a 9. I think about Piastri 3, but that checks out. Charles Leclerc. Very bad weekend for his standards. One of his worst weekends in his career by his words. It was disappointing, but it wasn't like it was 10 miles off. It was still very close to losing both qualifying and the races, still only a couple of positions behind this one. It's not like he was miles off, right? I'm going to give him an average 5, and Lewis Hamilton, a very good weekend. I'm going to give him 9.5. It's quite a 10. Like, left a little bit on the table maybe in Q3. Only one run, but yeah. Mercedes. Those two were pretty much evenly matched throughout the entire weekend. They were very close on track and with many incidents. In the end, I feel like both of them deserve the same rating, essentially, even though George qualified both times and won the sprint. It was looking like at a point during the Grand Prix that Anthony would probably win the race over George. But you never know what would have happened. It was very close. They kept overtaking each other, and it was whenever one was behind the other, it looked like they were quicker. But yeah, maybe I should give George Russell a 0.5 more, just because he got the pole positions, he got the sprint win. He had a better weekend, I guess. I'll give him George a 9 and Anthony an 8.5. Both of them did solidly during the weekend. So yeah, this is for the driver ratings. Thank you so much for watching, listening, commenting. Any interactions is much appreciated, and we'll see you again next week for the Monaco Grand Prix predictions. So see you. Peace.